Just by yourself? My wife was gonna come. There was a lady in town who needed help. She came our way. Okay. And I helped a little, and my wife is stuck with her at home. She might come, so I told her when they're done, try. She might. Yeah. Nice. And she called us just half an hour before. She had an emergency. Yeah. سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد, Alhamdulillah, I praise to Allah with His blessing. All of us can gather here. Allah gave us the opportunity together, and inshallah, listening and learning at the same time some very important things regarding how to raise our kids, particularly nowadays that we have so many fitna outside, and in particular in this country where we are surrounded by pretty much a non-Muslim environment. So inshallah, today Brother Khalid here will delivering some short lecture, and then hopefully we can take benefit out of it, especially in the field on how to raise our children. I'm probably gonna do mix English and Bahasa here, so now we can see like we also have a mixed crowd, some Indonesian, some non-Indonesian. So inshallah, this is one of the signs of the greatness of Allah that created us in nations so that we can get to know each other. Before Brother Khalid started the topic for today, inshallah, we're going to recite a few verses from Surah Luqman in relation to the topic today, and we'll continue with the lecture, and then probably 10-15 minutes at the end we're going to take question and answer, inshallah. Sure. And again, may Allah bless our gathering here, and then as what was mentioned in one of the hadith, that when we are gathered to learn or study about the religion, inshallah, Allah will call our name as one of the or part of the people who will be forgiven in the hereafter, inshallah. So, inshallah, we will start reciting the verses from Surah Luqman. If anyone want to follow, that's going to be, or want to read through it by themselves too, it's going to be, inshallah, ayat 11 to 15 from Surah Luqman. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. ولقد آتينا لقمان الحكمة أن اشكر لله ومن يشكر فإنما يشكر لنفسه ومن كفر فإن الله غني حميد. وإذ قال لقمان لابنه وهو يعظه يا بني لا تشرك بالله إن الشرك لظلم عظيم ووصينا الإنسان بوالديه حملته أمه وهنا على وهن وفصاله في عامين أن اشكر لي ولوالديك إلي المصير وإن جاهداك على أن تشرك بي ما ليس لك به علم فلا تطعهما وصاحبهما في الدنيا معروفا واتبع سبيل من أناب إلي ثم إلي مرجعكم أنبئكم بما كنتم تعملون. صدق الله العظيم. Inshallah, Brother Khalid will start the lecture, and let's enjoy the lecture, and then inshallah we can take benefit from what will be delivered.
جزاك الله خير. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. To begin with, I would like to thank you for making me part of this blessed event. Inshallah, it would be beneficial to me. Inshallah, before then, inshallah, it's beneficial to you. If you look at what's happening in our society, you would see that there is a comprehensive and calculated attack against, the usra or the family, and against the principles of children. And when we have children in this society, and you all, mashallah, we have families here, we have mothers, sisters, brothers, fathers of all ages. So if you would look at this, you would see that there's really a calculated attack about the family infrastructure and the children. For us, alhamdulillah, inshallah, for us as adults, we look at ourselves and we think that, some of us were raised, with parents who are Muslims in Muslim families. We have lots of interactions. Unfortunately, for our children who are born and raised in this country, there are lots of challenges, and they receive lots of mixed signals. And then it's our religious duties, not just to provide clothing and provide food and money for our family members. The most important part of our duty as Muslim parents is to make sure that our children are better Muslims than us. If you look at Ibrahim alayhi salam, when Ibrahim alayhi salam was making dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the dua that he made, Rabbi habli min as-salihin. Oh Allah, provide me children who are righteous. So Ibrahim alayhi salam, he did not ask for children who are medical doctors, or children who are going to be very wealthy, or children who are very happy. He asked for children who are going to be righteous. And this is really the ultimate dua that we should all make. What did Allah provide Ibrahim? Allah provided Ibrahim with Ismail, and after Ismail, Yaqub. And then when Ismail was making dua, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala described him in the Quran, وَكَانَ يَأْمُرُ أَهْلَهُ بِالصَّلَاةِ وَالزَّكَاةِ. So same thing. Now Ibrahim made dua so that he would get good children. And then Ismail, what was he doing? He was instructing his children so that they would worship, make dua, charity, pay charity, and do prayers. So it's a cycle, my dearest brothers and sisters. This is the most important cycle. And the most important cycle is not for us to be very wealthy, not for our children just to be happy. We want them to be happy. The most important thing is our children must be good worshippers of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If we fail with this task, even if your children have nice cars and nice homes and everything else, Allah, we all fail miserably. So the success would be to figure out how our children whether they are daughters, female or male, how they are important to, they're good worshippers of Allah. Now, even if you think whether your children are young or whether your children are old, you're still responsible for your children, even if they are in college. I remember I was, middle of my 50s. My father always was, talking to me and wanted to make sure I'm on the true path. And I was in my mid 50s. I had gray hair, and my father wanted to make sure that I'm following the appropriate path. So now, what is the best and ultimate advice? Well, how can we treat our children? There are so many things that we need to teach our children. What are the steps? And again, when I say children, I'm talking about of all ages. So even if your children are 30 years old, you think you're done, you are not done. So what is it that we need to do according to the Quran? What are the steps? What is so important? Where do we need to start? And do we need to start somewhere or not? So I looked in the Quran and I found the ultimate story in the Quran would be Surah Luqman, the verses which were read by our brother just a few minutes earlier, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talked to us about Luqman. And before giving us the advice and the steps and what we need to cover, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala basically, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did, He told us that, hey, listen, وَلَقَدْ آتَيْنَا لُقْمَانَ الْحِكْمَةِ. So we provided Luqman with the ultimate thing. And what was the ultimate thing that we provided Luqman? Was wisdom. So if you need to hear an advice from a person, you don't want to hear it from a person who is not accomplished, who doesn't know anything about anything. You want to hear it from a person who is wise. So that's how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala started. He told us, hey, listen, I provided Luqman with the wisdom. If Allah provided Luqman with the wisdom, it means it's what? The ultimate wisdom. So let's hear about the wisdom that was provided by Luqman. Luqman started, if you look at the verse, وَإِذْ قَالَ لُقْمَانُ لِابْنِهِ وَهُوَ يَعِظُهُ. Now, most parents, most fathers, and you're really my brothers in here, most fathers think that it's the duty of the mothers to take care of the children and teach the children the proper things. Yeah, in a way, yeah, the mothers would need to do their part. But most parents, most fathers are negligent. What they do is they say, oh, I'm working so hard. I need to go earn a living. I need to feed the family. I have no time for my family. I get home at 7 p.m. or 10 p.m. There's no time for my boys and my daughters. Hey, if my kids are not doing well, it's the fault of my wife. No. If you look at the first instruction in here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us how Luqman, the wise person, he was taking it by the horns. He made it his job to basically teach his son what would be the proper conduct. And we really need to follow the steps. We all read, those verses and we don't know the significance of the steps. Because when you have children, you need to figure out where to start. Do I need to make sure my son would do the prayer first? Or is it more important that my son would read Quran? Or is it more important that I teach manners for my son? In Surah Luqman, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala provided the steps. And it's all in sequence and in the level of importance. And this is what we need to do when we're dealing with our children. Or when we're if you're dealing with a person who is non-Muslim and that person is about to accept Islam, you need to go through those steps and the level of significance. And there are 10 steps. 10 steps that we need to go through out of Surah Luqman. وَإِذْ قَالَ لُقْمَانُ لِابْنِهِ وَهُوَ يَعِظُهُ. So Luqman is talking to his son, having a private conversation. And that's what we need to do. And I used to talk to my children, until now, you need to select the moments when the children can listen to you. وَهُوَ يَعِظُهُ, meaning providing an advice. He was really talking to him with a serious tone so that the son would digest the information. So is it only for the sons, not the daughters? No, it's for sons and daughters. But for this story, it was for his son. We said we have 10 things that we need to come up with, and the 10 things are going to be in sequence. And when you're dealing with a new Muslim or you're dealing with your children, you must follow these steps. The most important thing when you're starting with anyone, teaching them about Islam, يا بني لا تشرك بالله إن الشرك لظلم عظيم. Oh my son, do not associate anyone with Allah, because associating anyone with Allah would be the ultimate sin. And this is what we need to remember. So first, when you're dealing with a person who is about to accept Islam or dealing with your family members, the most important thing is to make sure that they understand the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If they don't understand the oneness of Allah and you connect them with Allah directly, then you miss the most important part. You can tell them to pray if you start with prayer and you don't connect them with Allah directly, where they are not sure about what they're doing. You push them into the prayer comes later. Number one, the most important thing is to believe in the oneness of Allah and start loving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at the appropriate level. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would forgive every sin that we do, except for the sin of associating with others with Him. So that's why this is so important. And this is where we need to start. You start by making sure, your children, my children, a new Muslim who is about to accept Islam, they all need to know and establish the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is number one. And you need to spit out all of them at the end. So there's going to be a quiz. I don't know if there are any prizes, but then there's probably going to be a quiz. Take notes. Remember it, okay? Because this is really an important message. Number one, no association, anything with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Look at what comes number two. What it is that we need to feed, to teach our family members. Number two, وَوَصَّيْنَا الْإِنسَانَ بِوَالِدَيْهِ. Number two, you need to teach your children that they have to listen to their parents. And right after Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, parents would be the most important thing. In this society, unfortunately, parents come at the end. Children, they just want to get out of the home. They just want to do what they want to do. Respect for the parents and making sure they understand, the children understand the values of their parents would be extremely important. One way of passing this from generation to the next generation would be the way you deal with your own parents. You don't want to talk too much. The way if you deal properly with your own parents, then your children don't know any better. They look at you, they see how polite you are and how you take care of your parents when they get older. Then what would they do? They know they have to take care of you when you get older. So this is advice number two. Start with Allah. And you see this in lots of locations in the Quran. Allah would talk about Himself, and then Allah would talk about the significance of the parents. Wallahi, I've seen it with my eyes. Those who don't take care of their parents, they're so miserable in this life. And everything they do, they kick it right, they kick the ball right, it goes left. Nothing happens, works well for them. And I've seen what happened with me. In my family, I've seen how certain members of my family didn't give their attention, good attention to parents. And I see how miserable their lives were. Not just for them, I look at what happened to their children and grandchildren. I've been around long enough to see my family members and how they go, those who were good to their parents, what happened to their families and their offsprings, and those who messed up the relationship with their parents. Wallahi, I've seen it with my eyes. Now with the parents, even if you feel that your parents are not good to you, وَصَاحِبْهُمَا فِي الدُّنْيَا مَعْرُوفًا. So even when your parents, you think they're not good to you, you have to treat them well. Even if they're not Muslims, you have to treat them well. This is the religious duty. So this is number 2. Number 3. Who is most important among the 2 parents? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and this is the advice. حملته أمه وهنا على وهن وفصاله في عامين أن اشكر لي ولوالديك إلي المصير. So Allah then said, oh, and then out of the 2 parents, remember your mother a little bit more. Because your mother who kept you in her belly for so long, and then she basically provided you with all the nutrition, and she passed some of her health and some of her strength to you. So make sure that you remember her. And even after she delivered you, your mother did what? For 2 years, she nursed you and she kept providing nutrition to you. And not only that, I mean, mothers for the rest of their lives, they can't go to sleep until they make sure that their sons or daughters are well taken care of. So number 3, make sure you don't, Allah, and according to Luqman, the mother, you need to teach the children, the position of the mother in the infrastructure and the family in Islam. This is extremely important. Now, the next one, if you look at what Allah stated, even if your parents, what Allah stated in here, even if your parents are, have different belief, and this is number 4, when your parents have different belief, and we have lots of brothers and sisters in this Islamic centers, where their parents are not Muslims. So this doesn't mean that when your parents are not Muslim that you should mistreat them or you should disconnect with them. This would be wrong, because when you connect with them even better, وَصَاحِبْهُمَا فِي الدُّنْيَا مَعْرُوفًا. So if the parents are trying, your parents are not Muslims, they're trying to push you in the wrong direction. So according to item number 4, we got number 4 here. Then Allah is telling you, you still need to be nice to them in this life. However, if they're asking you to do something improper religiously, then you don't do it. So you'll be as good as you can be to them. But really, the hard line in the sand is, if they ask you to do something inappropriate religiously, you don't be nasty to them, you still be nice to them, but that's where you stop. So this is item number 4. Now, item number 5, what we need to teach our children is extremely important, especially in this society. And lots of parents don't give lots of attention to it. وَاتَّبِعْ سَبِيلَ مَنْ أَنَابَ إِلَيْهِ. Companionship, friendship. If I know when my kids were growing up, the most important thing to them was friends, being accepted by other friends and other people. Allah and Luqman basically is mentioning here, وَاتَّبِعْ سَبِيلَ مَنْ أَنَابَ إِلَيْهِ. Make sure that you are with the companions, those people who are always do inaba to Allah. What does it mean to do inaba to Allah? It means they are connected with Allah. It means they always think of Allah. They always, whenever if they do something wrong, then they always come back to Allah to fix it. So this is how we can go ahead in life, and that's how our children can go ahead in life. If they have friends who are good worshippers of Allah. Another advice for brothers and sisters who accepted Islam, they change. If you accept Islam and you start to keep companions and friends who go every Friday night to the bar to have a good time, it's going to be really hard for you to keep going in the right direction. You really need to figure out some friends, who are close to Allah, so that by being close to them, then you would do the right things and you would be on the right tracks. And this is really what we need. So having the right friends and companions is extremely important. So in the order of significance, this would be immediately after taking care of, not associating anyone with Allah, taking care of both parents. Remember the mother even more, even when my parents are not doing so well, they don't accept Islam, they don't see what I'm doing. I would take proper care for them, of them. Number 5, making sure I am hanging with the right crowd and the children are with the right friends. It doesn't matter how old or how young we are. If we are with the wrong crowd, then we're going to drift in the wrong direction. So this would be item number what? 5, mashallah. So we're doing well, alhamdulillah. We're halfway through, okay? Item number 5. Now, item number 6 now, after you figure out all of these, and remember, so far, we didn't talk about any worshiping acts. Did we talk about any worshiping acts? No. So where do you start? Worshiping acts are important, but before you need to build the foundation. So we're talking about the foundations of relationships in a family and for any person who would accept Islam. Now, item number 6. Now we get to the point where you're elevating the relationship with Allah. So what did Luqman say? This would be verse number 16. Ya bunayya, innaha in taku mithqala habbatin min khardalin فتكن في صخرة أو في السماوات أو في الأرض يأتي بها الله إن الله لطيف خبير. Now, what Luqman is trying to do, he's trying to tell his son about the ability of Allah to witness everything and to figure out everything that is taking place. So he's telling his son that if there is something as small as a mustard seed, a mustard seed is probably one of the smallest seeds around. So if this mustard seed is being hidden inside the rock or up in the skies, look at how big the skies are, or somewhere down in the earth, Allah knows where this mustard seed is, and Allah can bring it forward. So why this is important? After we teach our children, different values, they need to know that Allah is looking over their shoulders. You can teach your children manners day in and day out, but what you want to do, you want them when you're not around. And when they are all by themselves, all in the society, you want to make sure that when you're not around, they are doing the right thing. And they know that they are in the presence of Allah. And Allah is looking their shoulders. So if we teach our children that Allah is there and Allah is capable of getting all the information and all the stuff, Allah is looking at all of their actions. So this is in Arabic what we label as muraqabatullah. Muraqabatullah meaning just feeling the presence of Allah and knowing how Allah is looking over our shoulders and He's aware of all of our actions. So you get to this level, immediately this would be item number 6. So we really need to teach each other, teach our children that, hey, you're not doing it for me. You're not just doing the right thing in my presence. You're doing it when you are all by yourself. So this would be item number 6. Now, if you look at verse 17, after it's number 7 now, and then Luqman started telling his son, Ya bunayya aqimis salat. So you get to item number 7 when you tell your son, after you teach him all the right manners, relationship with Allah, family members, having the right friends, Ya bunay, oh my beloved son, aqimis salat. Make sure that you establish the prayers. So is prayer important? Wallah, it's very important. But if you teach your children to do the prayers only when you are present, and then when they're out there all by themselves, they don't do the prayers, you don't gain anything. So you really want to teach them, you get them to a level where in this level, they are aware of the presence of Allah. And then they know they're doing the prayer not just to please you, they're doing the prayer so that they please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And again, this is important, so important for those brothers and sisters who would accept Islam. They know they are establishing the prayer. We tell them about the prayer, but first we need to tell them about all the other values. And then we get them involved in the prayers. For us, I know for lots of Islamic Senate, somebody would accept Islam. Before we start diving in all the other important stuff, we thought, oh, you must pray 5 times a day. We see a sister who would accept Islam. Oh, tomorrow you have to wear your hijab before you do anything else. Hijab is important. Prayer is important. But you need to establish the foundation so that if they wear the hijab, they're strong on the inside. They don't get defeated by the society later on and remove the hijab. So prayer is very important for our sons and daughters, especially when they are in school and it's time for prayer. Wallahi, if you establish them, build the foundation first, and they establish the relationship with Allah, they don't care. They will figure out how to do the prayer, even when they are in school. And this is what will happen, inshallah. So now, item number 7 would be prayer. So at 7, prayer, according to the wise advice of Luqman. Number 8, now look at this. After you establish the prayer and you have the right foundation and you're a good Muslim, at this point now you got elevated to a different level. You have knowledge from Allah and you have a relationship with Allah. At this point, you have to spread the message of Allah. And then the advice is, وَأْمُرْ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَانْهَ عَنِ الْمُنكَرِ. So at this point, you have to go and call other people for the way of Allah. You have to build yourself on the inside. You have to have the relationship with Allah. And once you establish it, you love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala so much, then it's like you discovered gold. You shouldn't be stingy. You shouldn't be keeping the gold for yourself. It's our religious duty to pass the word around and make sure other people would know about the gold mine so that they can start digging out the gold mine. And remember, so you need to tell people about doing things the right way. And then you need to refrain people from doing sinful action. In this society, you would see everyone is out for himself. You would say, oh, it's a free society. You see somebody doing something wrong, you say, oh, it's his own business. It's none of my business. In Islam, it is your business and it's my business. What we do as brothers and sisters is our business as an Islamic society. It's none of my business what you eat for lunch or what you do for dinner and what you bring for your family. It's my business if I see you doing something wrong and I'm standing next to you, you're doing it not the appropriate religious way, to bring it gently to your attention. This is Amr bil Ma'ruf and Nahi anil Munkar. And Amr bil Ma'ruf and Nahi anil Munkar is item number 8. All right, we're on the home stretch. So we have 2 more. Number 9. واصبر على ما أصابك إن ذلك من عزم الأمور. Now, then he's telling his son, if you want to tell people about the way of Allah, you have to have sabr. In Arabic, sabr is patience. And not just a little bit of patience. You need to be extremely patient. When you are dealing with others, and especially when you're sticking out your neck and telling people, hey, brother, what you're doing, you're skipping the prayers, I saw you're doing this or doing that gently, then your brother or sister is not going to take it lightly, okay? So they might say something ugly to you. They might say, hey, go mind your own business, okay? Or whatever they do. And then what you do is some people get excited and they say what? Oh, you're going to be rotten in hell because you didn't listen to me. No. Luqman told them what? even when they push you back, you have to be what? You have to be patient, and you never lose control, because your objective is not to send anyone to hell. Okay, your objective is to help everyone get in heaven. So if you're not patient, you're not going to help the situation. And this would be item number 9. So we have to be patient with everything that we do. Now look at the final advice. Final advice has, so many different subsections, but it's all about human interaction and social manners. So what does this mean? So now Luqman gave 2 verses, and these 2 verses, all items about interaction with others. How would I interact with others? ولا تصعر خدك للناس ولا تمشي في الأرض مرحا إن الله لا يحب كل مختال فخور. So to begin with, again, all of these are advices about interacting with others. So the manners of interacting with other people, Muslims and non-Muslims. ولا تصعر خدك للناس. So what does this mean? It's very interesting. You talk to people. Sometimes I talk to people in the masjid. Wallahi, in the masjid. I talk to people, and when I talk to them, they're looking at me in the face with all respect. I enjoy talking to them, and everything is fine. While other people, what do? You talk to them, and they turn away from you. Okay? As if you are not worth it. You're not worth their time. Wallahi, I've seen it. Lack of respect when you're dealing with others, and then what they do when they do this, they just don't want to talk to you. So what do you do in return? I mean, it really hurts you on the inside. So if you're dealing with other people, they're talking to you, what do? Don't turn away from them. Out of respect, they're talking to you. So make sure that you face them so that they would love that conversation. ولا تمشي في الأرض مرحا إن الله لا يحب كل مختال فخور. And now when you're walking around, don't show lots of pride. Some people, they, peacocks, what peacocks do? They're so proud of themselves with their feather, and they walk around. Oh, look at me, look at how beautiful I am. Look at who I am and who you are. So when you talk, when you show this kind of pride, that's basically, it's all about interaction. When you show this kind of pride against others, what would they do at the end? They just feel that, hey, you're like a balloon full of air. They just want to poke you to release the air and get done with you. So that's the advice, part of the interaction with others and the manner. And then Luqman told his son, Allah does not like this kind of interaction, to show that you're better than others. As part of the interaction that we need to teach our children also religiously, waqsud fi mashika. Waqsud fi mashika. Even when you're walking, you want to walk the appropriate way. So what is the appropriate way? When I see people running around, I would say, these are so lightheaded. Wow, how come they're running around? There is no reason for them to run around. People would have less respect of those people who runs around. So waqsid fi mashika, it means when you're walking, walk with respect. Okay? Not with pride, just walk the appropriate way so that people would know that you're a respected person. Okay? Now, some people don't realize it, even for prayer. If you come in the masjid, it's in the hadith, the true hadith of the Prophet, peace be upon him. You come in the masjid and you see the imam started the prayer. Some people do what? They run. So what's the instruction? You don't run. You walk the way you walk. Whatever you get out of the prayer, you're already late. There is no reason for you to run. Sometimes we're praying upstairs and I hear people running around. They think it's better to run. No. The advice is you want to walk the respectable way, and you get to the prayer and you join the prayer right away, inshallah. So even Luqman is teaching his son how to walk. Waqsid fi mashika. And the final advice related to interaction with others, and all of this again would be out of item number 10. واغضض من صوتك إن أنكر الأصوات لصوت الحمير. Now, when you talk, sometimes, in this society, people think, I know young people, what they do, I walk sometimes in the hallway. People think if they speak loud, then it's a cool thing. And among some people, I want to tell you, Arabic background, sometimes I talk to some people, they think if they speak louder, then they are more convincing. Okay? So by speaking louder, they think they are more convincing, and it's, they have strong personality when they are screaming and yelling at others, when they are communicating with them. And what Luqman is saying with this interaction, it's not about who has a louder voice. No. Inna ankara al-aswati la sawtul hamir. The worst kind of voices would be the voices or the noise made by donkeys. So donkeys can speak louder, okay? But this is the worst voice ever. So with the final advice number 10, it's all about interaction and all about respect for others. Make sure when you're talking to people, make sure you don't turn away from them. Make sure you don't scream and yell. Make sure when you're walking with respect, and make sure you're not showing too much pride so that others would be intimidated by you at the end. So these are the 10 advices, and the sequence is very important. And if we're raising family, not just family, these are good advices for people of all ages. So if you want to teach your family members, your children, how they can be good believers and good human beings, you really want to do all of these actions in this sequence. If you forget some of those actions, just go to Surah Luqman. And the Surah Luqman, we're talking about, those verses. We started with verse 11 all the way down to verse 19. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make it easy for us so that we digest this. And before we pass this to our children with our tongues, we need to do what? We need to practice and implement all of this so that inshallah our children have good examples and they would implement all of these. And if we have a Muslim convert, some people who are accepting Islam, and you don't know, some people tell you, so where do we start? Start with those 10 steps. Start from the top, building the relationship with Allah and not associating anything with Allah, and run down all of these steps. So my dearest brothers and sisters, the most important things is to have good family members and good offspring. These are the ones who are going to carry the Islam. The reason I am Muslim is because my parents, it's a blessing from Allah. But my parents put some values into me, and I'm trying to pass those values to my children. And this is what all the prophets did. ذُرِّيَّةً بَعْضُهَا مِنْ بَعْضٍ. If you look in the Quran, Allah mentioned all the prophets, and He said that these are offsprings of each other. And the most important thing for them was to make sure that their offsprings are good worshippers of Allah. And probably 70, 80 years from now, or 100 years, let's say, all of us would be meeting Allah, will be done. But our children are the ones who are going to be alive. And inshallah, they will have halaqah and they will be better worshipper, inshallah, to Allah than us. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us all so that we can fulfill the most important mission of our lives. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين والحمد لله رب العالمين وجزاكم الله ألف خير.
جزاك الله بارك الله فيك. Brother Khaled, inshallah, the next session would be question and answer. If anyone from here would like to ask a question, but we're waiting. As mentioned by Brother Khaled, there are 10 steps mentioned in order that we can take the hikmah from Surah Luqman. 1 through 6 is basically building the foundation for our kids, or how we're going to raise our next generation, starting from Tawheed, which is the understanding or the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and did not associate him with anything or any deity. And then comes the next would be how you're dealing with your parents, respecting both of your parents, and then put your mother above those above the two parents that you have, and then have a good companionship. Basically, as much, these probably the challenges in our situation right now. The biggest challenge is to get a good company that can keep us in the remembrance of Allah, and then can bring us back when we went astray from the path, from the straight path. The 7 is when it started. Once the foundation is established, then it comes to perform or establish the prayer, and then spread the word of Tawheed. And definitely it's going to be another challenge, which why the next item came after spreading of the da'wah, is for us to be super patient, because it's always hard to bring people or advise people with good things. You're gonna always get that type of look. And comes the last one, is how we interact with others, which a couple of items or few items mentioned here as being humble and modest. When you walk, when you talk, don't raise your voice, things like that. So, inshallah, if anyone would like to ask any question
or add
anything. Good.
So what was number 6?
Number 6. Number 6 is the number 6 is Allah is all knowing. So basically, number 6 is if you need to put the build the conscious that Allah is present, right? Allah is watching you in the way that suits His Majesty. So that's number 6. So 1 to 6 is putting that foundation. So we have those 6 foundation built strong. Inshallah, we can establish prayer, and our prayer will be more meaningful than this ritual. Anyone want to add, want to ask any question? Bahasa Indonesia is okay. We have many translators here, so you can write it down if you want to speak directly.
So raising a family, I don't know what kind of difficulties. I know for years I've seen lots of brothers and sisters facing, really difficult issues in raising families in this society. Inshallah, you're all better. None of you would be facing issues. But maybe this is a good time to have like a quick discussion about some shared experiences and issues, and how we can really resolve some of the issues when we are dealing with children in this society. And again, when we're talking about children, when your kids go to college, you're not done. Okay, when they start spreading their wings, you're not done. That's the time when you really need to even spend more time trying to make sure that they are moving in the right direction.
But some people, they didn't write the guidance how do you keep the base of Allah?
Subhanallah. So sometimes we don't realize we would be busy in life. So the question is, you don't realize that these are the important steps and these are the foundations, so that your children would be good children and good worshippers of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then all of a sudden, you have a child who is 15 years old, and your child has started driving, and they start building their lives. And how would you catch up? I want to say it's really too late. If you wait until they are 15, you miss the boat. But it's never too late because they're still alive and kicking. So what you want to do, you want to make sure that they stay on your side. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and with this advice, Allah wants you to establish good relationship, wants the kids to establish good relationship with the parents. But it's also the parents' duty to make sure that their children are close to them. So the Prophet, peace be upon him, said in one of the ahadith, رحم الله امرأ أعان ولده على بره. Allah would provide the blessing and the mercy for a father who would make it easier for his son to be good to him. So now when our children will become 15 and they come and they start challenging us and they start doing stuff that is unacceptable, we need to let them know what's right and what's wrong. But at the same time, we need to figure out a way to make it easier for them. And by making it easier for them to stay close to us. So some people would push their children away from them. They say, oh, they're going to rot in hell or something. That's not our job to say who is going to go to hell and who is going to enter heaven. So the challenge, it's a lot more challenging when you start at the age of 15 or 16 or even later. So what you do is you need to know, number one, whoever is guided by Allah is the one who is truly guided. So once they get older, it's going to be a little bit too difficult, very difficult task for you. But if Allah would provide your son or daughter with the guidance, then your son and daughter will be guided 100%. If you look, this is something that I did not say, but if you look at everything that happens, all those who got good children, what did their parents do? What did they do? They made dua for them. Okay? They made dua for them. Rabbi habli min as-salihin. Oh Allah, provide me of those who are righteous. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said in the true hadith, Ana da'watu Abi Ibrahim. So the Prophet said, the reason I am a prophet and the reason I am who I am because of the supplication that my father did. So, wallahi, this is the ultimate thing that you can do. You try your best, but remember that guidance is from Allah. So you start by making dua for your son and daughter, even when they're doing some bad stuff. There are some parents, and we need to give some attention to this. Some parents, they see their kids doing what? Deviating, doing some nasty stuff. And then they say, make dua against their children. And they say what? Oh, may Allah make them rotten in hell. May Allah, and I've seen this is the worst. May Allah break your neck for what you're doing. In Arabic, this is a very common thing. This, I don't know why they go after the neck. But when they go after the neck, and when it happens, Allah, if you make dua against your son and his neck is knocked out, what's going to happen to your son? Your son is going to be paralyzed for the rest of his life. And you would be the one who is going to take the pain, after it happens. So do not make dua against your kids especially when they are not listening to you and it's difficult. You tell them to do something and they do the opposite thing. The exact opposite. So if you make dua against them and it's a moment of acceptance, of supplication, and this is what the Prophet said. There are three people, and these three people, their supplication and dua is what? Accepted. One of them is parents. So for the children and for the young people who have still parents around, make sure you don't push your parents around bad enough so that they make dua against you. And for the parents, we're full of love, even when our children are not accepting, our wishes, they're not doing the right things. We shouldn't be making dua against them. So the most important thing at older age, you do what you can do and you make the ultimate dua for them, for inshallah, for hidayah. May Allah guide you. That's what you do. What, if I see my children do something and I don't accept, then what I do, will Allah yahdi. In Arabic, Allah yahdi. May Allah guide you. And I never even say anything which might harm them. Wallahi, sometimes, if you see your children, sometimes they do something that you don't accept. Watch out, even in your heart. Because in your heart, even if you don't say it with your tongue, as parents, for all parents, wallahi, in your heart, if you show Allah displeasure, wallahi, something bad is going to happen to your children. With your heart, even if you don't say it. So you watch out. The moment, if your children do something, at an older age that you don't approve 100%, then immediately do what? Do dua for them. Okay? So that you don't show Allah, even with your heart, that you're displeased. Sure.
Nothing. Thank you.
So there's a very important point that is raised in here, and the point is about you do your best, you're a good worshipper of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Can you guarantee that your children are going to be good worshippers of Allah? No. قَالَ وَمِن ذُرِّيَّتِهِ. So Sayyidina Ibrahim, he was given everything. Then he said, oh, how about my offspring? What did Allah say? قَالَ لَا يَنَالُ عَهْدِيَ الظَّالِمِينَ. So those who are oppressors will not get my promise. So if you look around, we're not responsible. Wallahi, we all need to give some attention to this. We're not responsible for the outcome. It's not an outcome-based kind of operation. We're responsible for what? For the effort. So when Allah would bring you as a father, or as a mother, bring a sister as a mother, Allah is not going to tell us, about the outcome. Allah is going to ask us about what we did, and if we did everything in our capacity. But the outcome is in the hands of Allah. The dua, we make dua day in and day out. There's no question about it. But if the outcome is not so pleasing, we need to watch out. What is the example in the Quran for a father and son when the outcome was not good? Noah, may Allah be pleased with him. He wanted to get his son into the ship. Ya bunayya come ma'ana. Come and jump into the ship. The son said, no, I don't want it. I don't want this. Because there is a price to pay. What was the price to pay? He would need to believe in Allah. He didn't want to pay that price. He said, no, I'm going to go to that big mountain and nothing's going to happen to me. Now that interaction is really important. Then what happened to Noah? He made some statements which, maybe, the interaction in the Quran is very scary. Wallah, it's very scary. And we don't know how we need to present it here. Because the statement he made, after Allah told him that you can bring on the ship only those who are believers, then he went back, he took a step back and he said, oh Allah, this is my son. What happened to my son? And Allah gave him the warning. And this is what's so scary. Allah gave him the warning, watch out. Okay? So the most important thing is our relationship with Allah. If our children disobey and select the wrong path at the end, watch out. Don't damage your relationship with Allah. Because Noah later on, he realized that he was about to step, out of line. And then he asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for forgiveness. So regardless of what our children do, I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not to test any of us. This was the ultimate test for Noah. May Allah be pleased with him. And he had to watch out, even when his son basically drowned. So you cannot really go back to Allah and point fingers or blame or anything else. The ultimate relationship between us and our children is Islam. If they are good worshippers, we love them so much. If they select something else, it's their choices at the end. We try to help them. We make dua for them. Even the uncle of the Prophet ﷺ did not accept Islam. He was protecting him and everything else. So don't blame yourself. Make sure you don't damage the relationship with Allah. If your children did not turn out the right way, and you continue making dua for them until you die. Okay? That's our job, to make dua for them so that Allah will guide them. And we never disconnect with them. Never disconnect with them. Keep that little, connection. Because one morning they might wake up and they face something and they want to reach out to you. If you disconnect, then they will not be able to reach out to you.
Ada lagi?
Please. All dua, all parents is important. They're both important. Now, according to what everything the Prophet is saying, the mother is above and beyond, above and beyond. There should be no reason for the children to say, do I need to please my mom or dad? We shouldn't put children in this position, okay? We should make it easy for them. Again, it's the mercy of Allah would be for those parents who would make it easy for their kids to be good to them, okay? So dua of both is equally important. And there should be no reason to select. Allah, I call my mother, every day, just so that at the end of the conversation, I hear her saying to me, Allah yardali. May Allah be pleased with you. I call her every day. She's in a different country. I just call her to hear that beautiful statement. That she would tell me this, and we talk about nothing sometimes, because when you call someone every single day, then you think it's the same stories over and over, but this will bring pleasure to her. That way she knows that we care about her, being so far from her. Just to hear the word Allah yardali. This would make my day. It makes my day, to hear that statement. When you make dua for your children, all of you, fathers and mothers, don't just make it in the middle of the night. You need to make it to them in their presence. Wallahi, this is the ultimate reward that you provide to your children. When you tell them, sometimes I can stand up and get a cup of water. I call my daughter to bring me a cup of water. Why do I call her to bring me a cup of water? So that I tell her at the end what? May Allah be pleased with you, to make dua for her. And I want her to hear it. If she doesn't hear it, she doesn't get it. Okay? Today I can stand up and get my water. There might be, I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make it to any of us. There might be a day where she would need to figure out how to bring me the water without me asking, so that I can make dua for her. For all of us. I remember my parents, when my father was alive, he used to come visit us every year. Wallahi, every time they left us, we would be showered with money and projects and stuff from areas that I never envisioned. Okay? The moment they leave, I know that they were making dua to me day in and day out when they were in my company. And then I would be looking forward to the next time, the next time they come my way. Because I know Allah is rewarding me in so many different ways. And some children don't get it. The young brothers, probably the older brothers with the gray hair like me, they understand this because they would be witness that this happened to them. But all of you brothers in the middle and there, the younger brothers, if you don't realize it and you wait until I am, you have gray hair like me, and your parents already passed away, wallahi, you missed the boat. Wallahi, you missed the boat. So the ultimate thing that you can do now is to practice it. So if you practice it now, and wallahi, you will see the benefit in this life before the day of judgment. You will see it in this life. Wallahi, your children will be even better for you. And unfortunately, people don't hear this and they don't see it. And by the time they realize it, for some, it might be too late because a father or a mother are already gone. So the ultimate thing that you can achieve would be to connect with the parents and make sure that they're making dua for you, inshallah, day in and day out, inshallah. Both mothers and fathers, inshallah.
Anybody else?
Anything else?
Question? There are few brothers here, like young brothers. Probably a little bit of advice before they start having their spouse family.
Please, jump in. What did they say?
They claim as the younger one.
You're the youngest myself. You're the youngest in heart. Hierarchies between mother and father, stepmother and father. Now listen to this. It's stepmother, stepfather. Not only that, mother-in-law and father-in-law, and these are even more important. Okay, there are some ladies where the moment they marry a guy, then they push the parents. They say, they interfere with my life. I don't want to listen to them. They mess me up. I don't want to go to their home. I don't want to do this. I want to do that. Wallahi, this is the worst thing they can do. Because if anything, they need to help their spouses, their husbands, so that they can do birr al-walidain, so that their parents can say, Allah yarda alayk, Allah yarda alayki. May Allah bless you for what you're doing. Mother-in-law and father-in-law are extremely important. If there's disrespect, whether for the brothers, you say, always, sometimes you make it so that it's a bad relationship. My mother-in-law hates me. My father-in-law does this to me. Every time I meet with him, he would, put me down. I don't want to see him anymore. I don't want to see her anymore. So how would this help the relationship? If you don't like, as a man, you don't like your mother-in-law, then how can your wife achieve a good relationship with her mother so that you all can please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So it's really important, my brothers and sisters, mother-in-laws and fathers-in-law, they're like mothers and fathers. If you treat them as such, wallahi, they will treat you like a son or like a daughter. If you treat them like, stay out of my life, every time they come to your house, then you don't want to talk to them. You don't want to look at them in the face. All of a sudden you're busy. You want to get out of the house. Then they wouldn't want to step in your house. And wallahi, parents, can feel this. Okay? So I enjoy going, my son, mashallah, has such a good wife, alhamdulillah. Wallahi, I enjoy going to their house. Wallahi, I make dua to his wife sometimes, more than the dua I make to my own son. Why? Wallahi, I go into her house, I feel like what? She's my daughter. Okay? She initiated this. Okay? What you do when your son or daughter would get married, then what do? You give them space. As a father, I give them space. It's up to them. If they tell me, come, I wouldn't come right away. They have to tell me, come 3 or 4 times before I go visit them. And I have to feel welcome in order for me to stay there and make dua for them and supplication. So stepmothers and stepfathers are exactly the same. So if I have a stepmom, okay, I want to please my father. So if I turn my relationship with my stepmom like hell, okay, I make it so bad, then every time I go, my father is not going to be happy with me. I'm messing up the relationship between him and his wife. So how can I achieve, again, back to this verse, even if your parents are not Muslims, وَصَاحِبْهُمَا فِي الدُّنْيَا مَعْرُوفًا. So in this life, you have to have a good relationship with them. So even if my stepmom or stepdad, or, for mothers, I'm married, I am a woman, I'm married, if I'm married to a man and he has a son, I want to make sure I don't push his son out of the way. It doesn't make any sense. He is his son. And I want to tell you, I've seen it. I've seen some brothers, what they do, they bring, they get married from, women from, the Middle East. And in the Middle East, they're not used to this relationship. So a man has a son from a previous marriage, they got divorced, they get married from a woman from the Middle East, they bring her in. The first thing she wants to do is what? Push that son out of the house and having a nasty relationship with that son. Wallahi, religiously, this is unacceptable. Okay, this is unacceptable. You should adapt that son. They should be like your son. Same thing for the brothers. These are family relationships. And Allah made it the cornerstone in the Islamic, society is family. And whether the son, he is my husband's son, I have to treat him well. I want him to be welcome. I want to take care of him so that he can see how religiously Islamic manners, how Islamic manners are. These are very important. Wallahi, this is everything we talked about here. You get to prayer. When do you get to prayer? Step number what? 7. Relationship and being a good human is higher than getting to the prayer. And unfortunately, religiously, if you go to most masjids, we always go do the prayer, go do Hajj, and it's all about this. And when it comes to interaction, human interaction, we don't give it any attention. It takes the back seat. And Allah wants you, to have this, all good relationship with all people around us. You have to have a good relationship with non-Muslims. So how about the stepson or a stepdaughter? How about the stepmom? You make your father happy when you come home, when you bring some flowers to your stepmom. Okay? How about this? How about this concept? And then your father will do what to you? Will do dua. And then all of a sudden, it's easy for you to go to that house. But if it is always like this, she took the place of my mom, I'm going to make her life miserable. She didn't do anything to you yet, she just married your father. So stepmom, stepdads, treat them like moms and dads. In-laws, treat them like moms and dads. Please, all of you, okay? Don't push your mother-in-law out of the house. That's not victory. Wallahi, this is the ultimate failure. It means you don't know much about Islam. You don't know much about how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants you to behave with others. And then you're making it so difficult for your husbands or for your wife when you're pushing the in-laws out of the house. SubhanAllah. And we hear it day in and day out. Lots of Muslim families, that's what they do. So don't do it. Please don't do it. SubhanAllah. Now, there was a question from my brother about those brothers. There are some, I didn't realize that we have brothers who are not married yet. Raise your hand if you're not married yet. Brothers and sisters, raise your hand. Oh, you're all married? MashaAllah. MashaAllah. Alhamdulillah. The youngest brother is not married. You see?
1, 2. I can't count.
Nobody wants to admit it. Nobody wants to admit we don't have any single brothers or sisters. MashaAllah. Okay, at least one brother said he is. I'm sure we have lots of sisters also. Now, the most important thing, brothers and sisters in young age, and even the older brothers, you went through life and now you're ready to get married. The most important thing is to select the appropriate spouse. This is the most important decision that you make in all of your life. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we talked in the khutbah up here in Fort Collins about the significance in Surah Al-Hajj, the significance of building structures on solid foundations. Okay? I'm sure you all have seen what happened to all of our brothers and sisters in Turkey and Syria with the earthquake. You see very nice buildings, high structures, 12, 15 high-rise buildings. And what happened to them when the earth started shaking a little? They collapsed. Some of them collapsed in big ways, and they were recent structures. Why did they collapse? I'm a civil engineer, okay, by design. So why did these structures collapse? One of the main reasons is they were not built on solid foundation. So in Surah Al-Hajj, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned the example. If you look at the example of a person who built his structure on solid foundation versus the person who built the structure or the building on the edge of a cliff, and not any cliff, collapsing cliff. So you can build your structure on solid foundation or on the edge of a cliff. And the one that is on the edge of a cliff is going to do what? It's going to collapse. So now, for those who have not gotten married, or those who are looking for spouses, the most important thing, wallahi, the most important thing is religion. Okay? If you go find a person who doesn't share the same religious values, it's a formula for failure. If you select somebody who doesn't have the right value, religious value, like the 10 points we talked about today. If a person doesn't have them, that person, you should not get close to that person. You cannot marry that person. And the most important thing is religion. And that's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or the Prophet, peace be upon him, when a man is looking for a wife, he should consider normally 3 things. Number 1, everybody's going to say what? Beauty. Okay? They always look at the surface, the beauty. Number 2, the social status. Number 3, religion. And then which one? In another hadith, بِمَالِهَا وَجَمَالِهَا, money. 4. You're absolutely right. Yeah. And number 4, one of them is religion. And the Prophet said, select which one? Select the one with the religion, so that you are successful at the end. That's the ultimate success. If we have the same values, again, we're building a structure. And I've seen lots of people building the structures on very nasty foundation. They select a person who doesn't have the same religious values, religiously, they do the wrong thing. And then eventually what's going to happen to this structure? When the children, you select somebody with a different faith. And then with a different faith, they want to raise the children on a different faith. So what kind of confusion is going to happen to the children? What are you doing to the children? So you want to build it. If they have a different faith, you want to make sure you come down to the right foundation, establish the right understanding that we're doing it so that we're worshiping Allah. We want the good children who are good worshippers of Allah at the end. And by doing this, you come up to the right understanding so that you can both parents would need to pull in the right direction so that inshallah the children would be good worshippers of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at the end. I don't know if we have time for more discussions or not. All of these, wallahi, these are the ultimate discussions. They impact all of our lives. And inshallah, this will be beneficial to me, before it's beneficial to you, inshallah.
I think it should be.
That should be it. Okay. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين والحمد لله رب العالمين. May Allah provide all of us, inshallah, with righteous children, inshallah. May Allah provide all of us with the strength so that we are good children also to our parents, inshallah. So that we would please our parents, inshallah, our offsprings, inshallah, will be good worshippers of Allah. Alhamdulillah.
Jazakallahu khair. Inshallah, very heavy message for all of us. Inshallah, we can implement, take the benefit out of it. Again, Jazakallahu khair. May Allah bless this gathering and bless us with the meaningful knowledge that we can take from this lecture, inshallah. After this, inshallah, we're going to enjoy some of the food that we already prepared by our team here. And inshallah, for everyone who is not very Asr will be in the next 10 or 15 minutes. We close this gathering by saying, Subhanallah, bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Feel free to enjoy it. And it's good. It's good time. That sometimes you
Sometimes enjoy the food also.
food and then
And then Asr. Assalamu alaikum. How are you?
And yeah.
Oh, well, yeah.